Good evening, everybody. Welcome into overtime. Another successful week of high school football. Of course, our game to watch last week, AC Flora at Camden. And, of course, AC Flora handled business. We're here to talk about it alongside SC Varsity's very own Jim Baxter. You can call him JB if you want to. And, Jim, we thought that AC Flora would go down to Camden basically and handle their business. It wasn't like a total blowout, but it was a solid win for AC Flora.
It was a solid win for AC Flora. And listen, we knew going into the game last week, we talked about it. Camden hasn't had a very good season this year. They've been struggling the last couple of years. AC Flora is on a roll right now. They're playing good football, playing as good as anyone in the state at 6-0 right now. Reggie Shaw's doing a great job over there. The offense is coming around and playing more consistent, and their defense has been good all year.
Yeah, they've been very solid. Of course, the Falcons improved to 6-0 on the season. One of both of our top fives in the business. No doubt they should be there. You see they're very aggressive on the defensive side of the ball. They're very good on the offensive side of the ball. But anytime you go on the road and win a football game, it's a good win. I mean, I know we don't have Camden in our top 5, maybe even our top 10, but a solid win. And you can't say enough about the job Reggie Shaw has done since he's been over at AC Flora.
He's done an outstanding job. And listen, Dean Howell, prior to going to White Knoll, was at AC Flora, took over after Robin Bacon. Robin Bacon, I think, really laid the groundwork over there. Dean Howell took it to the next step and got them to being a playoff contender, a region contender every year. And now Reggie Shaw's there and going to try to take it to the next level.
And I think there'll be a team that we'll definitely be watching down the stretch here in this high school football season. Another game that somewhat disappointed me, Jim. It hurt my heart. The Vikings, I just put you in the Pastors Picks top 5, and you go to White Knoll and
wheels are still.
Yeah, I thought the wheels were put back on, Jim. You told me the bolts were secure. What happened?
Well, they had 8 turnovers, Corey. I mean, you can't go into any game. It was, it was wet, but it was wet for both teams. But they go into this game, when you run that type of offense, a flexible offense, you always run the risk of putting the ball on the ground, especially when it's wet. And that's what happened. They had 8 turnovers in this game. I think this game's really more revealing to me about White Knoll than it is Spring Valley. You know, when you get 8 times the team gives you the football and you still only win the game 13-7. Listen, I know Spring Valley's got a great defense, but 13 points and with getting 8 turnovers, 8 takeaways, I think there probably should have been a little bit more offensive.
And our player of the week, we should note this, our player of the week last week, Ryan Lee, the quarterback, was injured in that ball game.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that offense is probably not going to run the same if he's not the catalyst of that offense. So I'm sure, scoring only 7 points maybe has something to do with that.
And again, listen, give White Knoll credit. Yeah. It's a win. It's a great win because it gives them some momentum. They've rattled off 4 wins in a row. Now they go into region play this week, and it gives them a little momentum heading into region play.
Keenan Newberry, a game that could have easily been our game to watch last week, and that game didn't disappoint because there's 2 solid football teams, and the Bulldogs win this football game 30-22, and they improved their record to 5-1 over the season, Jim.
This is a game right here that really could have produced the region winner. This is a tough region. Region 3 2A, you've got Keenan, you've got Fairfield Central, you've got Newberry, you've got Pillion, who are the teams I think are to watch in that region. Newberry gets a leg up because they get this win, but Keenan, as good as they are, as good as they're playing, it's scary to think that you could finish as low as 3rd or 4th in the region because the region's so strong.
Yeah, I always liked Newberry. I thought, and I think they do a really good job of coaching up there. They get a good system in place, and Keenan too, a good football team. That was a good matchup. I had to miss that ball game. But some good athletes out there on the football field. You can see right there getting on the out. Look at that catch between the legs, like a basketball dribble. But what a good win by Newberry, 30-22 over Keating. And another game that I was looking at, and a team that I can't really figure out just yet, and that's Lexington. And I know you've been around that program a lot. They won the ball game, but I'm having a hard time figuring out who they really are.
Well, I think they're having trouble figuring out who they are. I think that, getting your identity is tough when you've got injuries.
Right. And
they have not been healthy all year. I think that they went down to Carolina Forest last week, got a great win down there. I think they're on track now. Getting a win over Lugoff. Granted, Lugoff's got their struggles. They're 0-6 right now. But like with the White Knoll beating Spring Valley, this is a win heading into region play. Gives you a little momentum and really lets you know what you need to work on. I think, listen, they need to ride Slade Carroll. Slade Carroll is the heart and soul of that offense. If they can play solid defense, they can have a good game this week. This week's game against North Augusta is of vital importance in Region 5.
And we call that a must-win for Lexington?
I think it's a must-win if you've got any chance at all winning a region championship.
You heard it from Jim Baxter. Let's switch gears a little bit. The Shrine Bowl's announced this year. Now, I'm proud of when the Shrine Bowl comes around, being an alumni and the MVP back in my day, 1980 something. Now we'll just leave it at that. On the later side of the 80s, just saying. But there are always guys that make it, and there's some guys that probably should have made it, but there are only 44 players selected, Jim. And of course, the Midlands had a lot of players representing the Midlands, and I think that's good. Let's go to the screen, show you some of those guys. I saw Belton, Blythewood, a guy that I like really a great deal. Matt Colvin, we all love him and his production. Lane Ecton, his teammate, makes it. But Jim, some other guys here.
Jordan Williams, Spring Valley, excellent defensive player. Dennis Daly from Ridgeview, a big offensive lineman. He made it. Stephen Hare-Lambus, a two-way starter for Chapin, outstanding football player. He's made it as offensive lineman. Paul McCaver from Batesburg, Leesville, one of the top defensive linemen in the state. He's another kid that plays on both sides of the ball. And William Ronan from Lexington, one of the offensive linemen from Lexington. So a lot of big guys make it from the Midlands area.
I know when we talk about the NFL and the Pro Bowl, and they always, who are the Pro Bowl snubs?
There were some stuff. I think there were three glaring omissions on this team. One from the Midlands, Denzel Johnson, safety from AC Flora, was a glaring omission. Tabari Hines, wide receiver from Marlboro County, and Gage Cervinka from Emerald, one of the top defensive linemen in the state, committed to Clemson, were all three omissions. There's omissions every year. I don't have a problem with omissions. Usually you can look at it and say, well, yeah, they were left off the team, but the guys that are in there are just as good. This year's a little bit different. There were 2 or 3 players on this year's selection that I felt were not only not one of the top 44 players in the state, but they weren't one of the top 3 or 4 at their position. And that's something you've got to be to make this team. I think that it's a little political in the selection process. I think that a lot of the kids on that team deserve to be there, but I think that there needs to be a little bit more transparency in the way that they select the team. And because if there's transparency, there's accountability from the coach's standpoint, and I think you get a better selection.
All right, good stuff right there. Congratulations to all the guys that were selected. All right, when we come back, it's time to take a look at our game to watch this week. White Knoll and Irmo, a team that haven't won yet. Jim and I will break it down after this timeout. Welcome back to Overtime. Now it's time to feature our game to watch of the week. White Knoll, a team that took care of Spring Valley last week, and that's their 4th win in a row versus a team, the Reggie Kennedys, 0-6 at Irmo. Haven't won yet, but a team that, hey, maybe, give them some props to Hill. Dutch Fort to 27 points. White Knoll 4-2, Irmo 0-6. 7:30 tomorrow night at Irmo High School. And Jim, there's a couple of guys that maybe folks need to pay attention to.
Caleb Grubbs, quarterback from White Knoll, excellent athlete. He does some damage with his legs. He can throw the football. They're not going to kill you with the passing game at White Knoll, but he's excellent at operating that offense. Outstanding baseball player as well. And Manny Banks, wide receiver from Irmo. Unfortunately, Manny Banks is really the only offensive production that Irmo's had, and that's been a problem with them. They're going to have to take care of that.
Yeah, you think with Reggie Kennedy, like to run the football, like to be balanced, but just right now they lost a lot of good talent off their football team last season. But when we look at this game, White Knoll, big win for them. I guess we can call that an upset, even though Spring Valley had 8 turnovers. They win that game 13-7. But more impressive is that they've won 4 in a row, Jim, and this is a team that is moving on up like the Jeffersons and seem like they're getting better each and every week.
Well, they are. I mean, listen, a win's a win. They got the win. They're going into region play with a win, and that's big. I know I'll get ribbed for this, for saying this, but the fact of the matter is, yes, they've won 4 in a row. The combined record of the teams that they've beaten are 7-17. They've only beaten one team with a winning record, and that was Spring Valley, and that was a game that they got 8 turnovers in. So, again, it's a win. They're 4-2. You have to salute them for that, but I'm just not sure that it's real. You know what I mean? And I like Irmo in this football game for that reason.
Wow. Well, here's Coach Dean Howell. Amber Pennycuff caught up with Coach early on in the week.
Well, just like last week, we definitely have our work cut out for us. They're a lot faster than us, and They are probably the best 0-6 team I've ever seen, obviously. Coach Kenny and those guys, they've done a great job of keeping the kids in it and keeping them involved, and they're still playing hard. They've had some tough breaks, and ball hadn't really bounced their way, but they're a really good football team, and we're going to have to play extremely well just to stay in it, that's for sure. Well, it means a lot to them. Obviously, we come out here and put a lot of work in, and the kids have worked extremely hard, not just during football season, but also this summer. And it's good for them to get some good things happening to them after we started off so slow. So it's definitely had a lot to do with the morale of the team going way up, and our confidence levels up. And so hopefully we'll continue to to have that continue in the same direction.
I think Amber and Coach thought they were going to get ran over.
I got ran over there.
Yeah, but again, 4 in a row. You got to give those guys a lot of credit. Started the season 0-2 and won their last 4, and including a good win over Spring Valley.
And listen, they didn't pick the schedule. I mean, the schedule. It is what it is. So I don't want them to think that I'm picking on them about the schedule, but it is a fact. The fact of the matter is,
you can't change facts, and we deal with facts. So,
Yeah.
And here's another fact: Irmo is 0-6. And they haven't won a game, but a team that lost 27-7 to Dutch Fork. I know Matt Coburn was not in that ball game, but still, if you're looking for something to motivate your team, you're looking for something to grasp and hold on to, I think this is a moral victory, to say the least, for Irmo. I mean, Reggie's a good coach. Walt Wilson's a good coach over there. But this is, oh, Lord have mercy. That's called the old okey-doke move right there. But this is a team, Jim, that I still think they can improve and get better, even though, they're struggling right now.
Listen, this was a 6-0 ball game at halftime, and Dutch Fork's only production was 2 field goals. So Irmo's got to feel good about the way their defense played, only giving up 27 points. 9 of those 27 points were from the kicker. So,
wow.
So they did a good job defensively. Again, the problem at Irmo's offense, they've got to get that offense going. If they can get Manny Banks in space and get him the football, but he can't be the only weapon. This is an opportunity for them. They are 0-6, but right now this is region play. You can still get into the playoffs as an automatic by finishing in the top 3 in this region, and that's possible, but it's going to start with White Knoll. They've got to get the win against White Knoll.
Well, Amber, we sent her just right down the road over to Irmo to catch up with head football coach Reggie Kennedy.
Yeah, it's our first region game. It's a great local rivalry with us and White Knoll, and we're looking forward to the challenge. Yeah, they're fired up. The coach is doing a good job of helping the kids to put the losses behind us and move on to the next week. And one of the things we stress with our kids and how you start the race, but the way you finish the race, and that's kind of our philosophy this past week, and the kids kind of bought into that.
All right, good stuff, Amber. Thank you very much. And I'm taking Reggie Kennedy to pull the upset over White Knoll. When we come back, it's the band, it's the cheerleaders, it's our players of the week. That's coming up after this timeout. Welcome back to Overtime, and now it's time to celebrate the fun part of our show, as we like to do it every week. We like to recognize the cheerleaders and the band and the players, and let's get it going. Well, our band of the week, how about the Mighty Bulldog Sound? I should call it the Mighty Bulldog Sound. The Camden Bulldogs, even though they lost, they were still playing some great music for the fans to celebrate. Groove on out there in the stands. Well, our cheerleaders of the week, this is going to throw a little bit of a curveball, but how about the cheerleaders from South Florence? And you say, why? Because they were out in Blythewood playing the Bengals. Yeah, we give them some love. We give everybody love. Love, we spread it around, Jim. South Florence. I haven't seen those guys in a while.
And they got something to cheer about. South Florence 5-1 right now.
Good football team, and the girls are getting it done. I think it's fair to say that the weather affected a lot of teams this past weekend, but they got the games in at least, and of course we appreciate the cheerleaders being out there doing their thing. Players of the week, and let's talk about Kadarius Jackson, Jim. Good player, right?
Excellent player, excellent offensive player for Airport High School. Started the season as a quarterback, was their starting quarterback last year. He's moved to wide receiver to try to get him in space with the football. 5 receptions, 196 yards, and 3 touchdowns last week.
I like Charles Mallory. These types of numbers, C.A. Johnson is a team, well, maybe don't talk about him a whole lot, but when you look at these glaring stats, 248 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns, and 112 passing, that's a pretty good night.
Hard worker. Know that young man came through QB1 camps.
You trained him up?
Trained him up.
One of the dual threat guys here in the Bennett. Those are our offensive players of the week, so congratulations to both of those guys. And let's talk defense, Jim, and when you talk defense, you're talking ballers, right?
AC floor. I mean, you know, they
on one team, a combination.
And listen, they wrecked the backfield. We talked about this earlier. I mean, those 2 kids were all in that backfield last week against Camden. Made it miserable on the Camden quarterback.
Watch this play right here. Good stance, good flat back. Look at it. I like that, how you rip through that backfield, pad level, low, getting penetration. That's how you do it, young man. Look at this right here. Boom, big boy right there. That's a big guy.
Yeah. Daryl Davis and Terrell Goodwin, both excellent players. 7 sacks. How do you get anything going when your quarterback gets sacked 7
that's just
times?
made it tough there for the Bulldogs to get anything going. And you see why they struggle some on offense. When you got defensive linemen that can get that type of penetration and get into the backfield and create havoc, that's a problem for the offense. So congratulations to those guys. Teammates, a combined 7 sacks. Speaking of individuals who are playing well, Jim, let's talk and show what type of recruits that we need to know about this week.
Well, there's several this week I wanted to mention. I think we go back to the Dutch Fork game from last week. Tyler Bass, the kicker for Dutch Fork's one of the players that I've looked at this week. He's 5'11", 160 pounds. Had a chance to spend some time with him in camp.
You're highlighting a kicker?
Hey, listen, he scored 9 of Dutch Fork's 27 points last week were off this kid's foot. Don't forget, this is a guy that put 5 in the uprights during the state championship game. So Tyler's a great football player. And then one of the other players that I really wanted to highlight this week, and one of the Shrine Bowl selections, Stephen Haralambus at Chapin High School, 6'3", 276-pound offense, defensive lineman. You see there open up the hole for the quarterback to get one of the touchdowns, tying touchdowns against Brooklyn Casey in that game that they won in double overtime. But Haralambus has got offers from some FCS schools. I think he's still waiting on that Division I FBS type offer, and he could get it. I mean, he's on the bubble in terms of size. You know, his height's 6'3", so he's a little short for the Division I. He could probably play guard at the next level.
Yeah, I was gonna say
he loves playing on the defensive side of the football, though. And then the other player I wanted to highlight this week was Lamar Sims, a linebacker. Well, he's a defensive end, plays defensive end, but he's a 6', 200-pound defensive player for Dreer. Had 5 tackles and a sack, 4 quarterback pressures against Lower Richland last week. Outstanding player. He does play defensive end. You can see from his size, he's not a defensive end at the next level. Probably with the right speed, could play at an outside linebacker spot. But he's more of a Division II, maybe a small FCS type player, but outstanding high school football player.
Well, regardless, it's still good. These guys getting an opportunity to play at the next level. All right, good stuff there from Jim and the recruiting. When we come back, we'll let you know what the weather's going to be like. Our very own Dana Fulton is in the house once again. She'll tell you about the forecast. That's when we get back. All right, welcome back to Overtime. And yes, Friday night is always fun. And folks always like to know, how do they need to prepare as far as the weather is concerned. Let's toss it over to our meteorologist, Dana Fulton. Dana, tell them, what's the weather going to be like in our game to watch?
Corey, beautiful weather is expected for our Friday, starting off the day with plenty of sunshine, a clear sky over the Midlands, and then we'll get into our early afternoon hours and really not a whole lot changing. Maybe a few passing clouds, but as far as any rain activity or storms, not coming in our forecast for our Friday. Perfect for football. We're putting your outdoor watch at a 9. Absolutely gorgeous tomorrow. We're going to stay at just a little bit cooler yet again, still above average though, in the mid to low 80s. Really should be in the upper 70s for this time of year. Mostly sunny sky. And before you head out the door and go to the game, go ahead and download that free Skywatch weather app just to get your latest update on the forecast. Our game to watch tomorrow, White Knoll against Irmo. That kickoff is set for 7:30. We'll be near 77 degrees at that time. Absolutely clear and comfortable though. Again, perfect weather for high school football, so I hope everybody does have a chance to get out and enjoy it. Corey, I think the weather's great. I'm pretty sure you're going to love it tomorrow night also.
All right, Dana, thank you so much. Good stuff. So gorgeous. Big 9 for the weather tomorrow night. And like last week, we need that raincoat and the umbrella. All right, some other games around the Midlands, my friend Jim, that folks need to watch out for because we have one game to feature, but there are numerous games. How about Newberry and Fairfield Central? I think that's going to be a really good football game. Gilbert and Brooklyn Casey, Blackwood, Spring Valley. All these games, of course, at 7:30, Jim.
All region games. I like Brooklyn Casey in that game against Gilbert. That Fairfield Central Newberry game is going to be a tough match. I think you could go with either team. I'm going to take Fairfield Central in that, and I think Spring Valley rebounds against Blackwood.
Yeah, you heard anything about Ryan Lee and his status in the ball game? Because if he's hurt, I'm not so sure. I mean, because he is the key to that offense of the Vikings.
I'm taking Spring Valley, whether he's there or not.
Wow,
I like Spring Valley in that game.
In the win. Speaking of Spring Valley, let's go and compare your top 5 first, young man. I like to see the old bearded one.
Mine doesn't change as much.
Let's see Jim's top 5.
All right. At number 1, Dutch Fork, still sitting at number 1. I think they're number 1 team. I think in the state rankings, they're number 3 in the 4A classification. Westwood, number 2. AC Flora, number 3. I still got Chapin at number 4. They got a tough game. Brooklyn Casey, number 5. They take on Gilbert in region play this week. Really setting up, if Brooklyn Casey wins that game this week, setting up a huge game next week against Midland Valley.
That's pretty good, but as always, it's wrong. So let's go to the pastor's pick. The pastor of Payne's top 5. Westwood, yes, you're still number 1. Why? Because you haven't lost a game. You're undefeated. Dutch Fork, a nice win over Irmo, and even I almost thought about sliding them down to 3 because you only won 27-7 over Irmo. But I'm still hold tight at number 2. Number 3 is AC Flora. I think the guys are doing a great job over there. Chapin, welcome in. You know what? You were on me last week. You're right. I should have put you in, but you're there right now holding that number 4. And yes, a lot of folks think I'm crazy, but you beat Spring Valley and you replaced Spring Valley White Knoll in the pastor's top 5. So welcome in White Knoll, 4 in a row, and they're going to try to make it 5 this weekend. So
we'll just be ready for your changes for next week.
All right, it probably will change. I'm just saying. We appreciate you joining us each and every Thursday night here in the overtime. Have a pleasant night, and we'll see you on next week.